there's a decent chance the extra virgin olive oil in your cupboard isn't olive oil at all. Put it on a salad, swirl it over warm bread, take a taste, and you'd swear it's the real thing. Here's the strange part. So would a professional chef. This isn't one bad bottle or one shady brand. It's an entire underground industry, big enough that the Italian mafia muscled in because faking olive oil turned out safer and more profitable than selling drugs. Somewhere along the way, a humble salad ingredient became liquid gold. The question is how and why almost nobody's tongue can catch the swap. Italians even have a name for the people behind it: the Agromafia, organized crime that traffics in counterfeit food instead of contraband. By one estimate, it's worth around $16 billion a year, just in Italy. The logic is almost insulting. One famous 60 Minutes investigation claimed a faked batch can cost about $7 to make and sell for the price of the real thing. That's a profit margin, they said, beats cocaine, with a tiny fraction of the prison time. In 2016, police arrested 33 people tied to a single mafia clan, partly for shipping fake extra virgin to America. And it never really stopped. In 2025, a Europol sting called Operation OPSON seized over 260,000 liters of fake extra virgin and arrested 11 counterfeiters across Spain and Italy. 250,000 liters of olive oil that had barely made an olive. So how do you fake olive oil well enough to fool a chef? It turns out there's a recipe, and it's disturbingly simple. Step 1. Start cheap. You grab the lowest oil there is, maybe lampante, a grade pressed from rotten, fallen olives that's literally unfit to eat until it's refined. Or you skip olives altogether and use sunflower or soybean oil for a fraction of the price. Step 2. Make it vanish. That cheap oil reeks rancid and musty, exactly the off smells a trained taster is taught to hunt for. So you deodorize it. Heat and chemicals scrub the smell out completely, leaving an oil that's flavorless, odorless, and totally innocent looking. Step 3. Paint it. Real extra virgin is a gorgeous green gold, so you stir in chlorophyll for the green and a little beta-carotene for the gold. Now it looks the part. Step 4. The clever one. Blend a splash of real olive oil back in, sometimes as little as 1 part real to 9 parts fake, just enough to whisper olive on the tongue. Step 5. Slap on a label that says Italian extra virgin, even if the oil was really born in Syria or Tunisia. And this is why your tongue is helpless. Those taste tests everyone trusts work by detecting flaws, rancid, musty, fusty notes. But deodorizing erased every flaw. There was nothing left to catch. You didn't fail the taste test. The test was disarmed before you ever lifted the spoon. Now, to be fair, most fake oil isn't pure seed oil in disguise. More often, it's real olive oil, just a cheaper grade, quietly sold as extra virgin. But whether it's a total swap or a sneaky downgrade, the result on your shelf is the same. You paid for the best and got the bottom. But this raises a darker question. Olive oil's been around for thousands of years. Why did faking it suddenly explode now? The answer starts with the weather. In 2024, drought and brutal heat hammered the Mediterranean. And Spain, which grows about half the world's olive oil, got hit worst of all. Harvests collapsed. When supply crashes, prices rocket. Spanish wholesale oil leapt from about €2 a kilo in 2020 to nearly $9 at the peak. Prices climbed so high that something bizarre started happening in supermarkets. Olive oil became the single most stolen item in around 70% of Spanish regions, outstealing even expensive ham. Stores began locking bottles in security cases and tagging them like bottles of perfume. When a salad ingredient gets shoplifted like jewelry, you know the price has gone insane. And high prices are rocket fuel for fraud. Now there's a giant gap between what cheap oil costs and what extra virgin sells for. Fraud lives in that gap. Then there are the rules, which are almost comically loose. Oil can often be labeled Italian, even when barely any of it is. And vague phrases like bottled in the EU are perfectly legal. And enforcement is mostly reactive. Testing happens after the oil's already on shelves, catching only a sliver. Here's the quietly brilliant part. Unlike a stolen car, fake olive oil gets eaten. The evidence vanishes down your throat. There's no victim filing a report, because the victim never knows a crime happened. It's the perfect crime, hiding in plain sight on your kitchen counter. So if your tongue can't catch it, and the police can barely see it, who can? Meet the food detectives. Their main weapon is a machine called a gas chromatograph, and it does what your mouth never could. It reads the oil's chemical fingerprint. Every oil has a signature blend of fatty acids. Real olive oil is mostly one called oleic acid, between about 55 and 83%. But sunflower and soybean oils are packed with a different one, linoleic acid. So when the machine spots too much linoleic acid sneaking in, it's like a forger leaving fingerprints all over the painting. The chemistry tells on them, even when the taste can't. But forgers adapt, blending more carefully, covering their tracks. So in 2025, the detectives revealed something out of science fiction. A European research effort called the Watson Project built a portable DNA tester, nicknamed Field DNA. Instead of tasting the oil or testing its chemistry, it reads the actual DNA of the olives, confirming the oil came from the exact trees it claims. They ran the first field test at a mill in Bettona, in the Italian region of Umbria, pairing each bottle with a scannable QR code passport from farm to shelf. The scientist leading the pilot put it bluntly. Olive oil, he said, is the most faked food of any product on Earth. For the first time, the detectives might actually be winning. But let's get to the part that actually affects you, because the real cost of fake olive oil isn't only your money, it's your health. The whole reason extra virgin is famous, the reason doctors rave about it, comes down to compounds with intimidating names, polyphenols, like oleuropen and hydroxytyrosol. These are the antioxidants linked to a healthier heart, less inflammation, even a sharper brain. They're the magic. And here's the gut punch. Remember that deodorizing step, the one that scrubs out the smell? It happens at scorching heat, around 250 degrees Celsius. And that heat doesn't just kill the bad smell. It destroys the polyphenols too. So a deodorized fake, or cheap refined oil in disguise, can look green, taste fine, and deliver almost none of the good stuff. You paid premium for medicine. You got colored grease. That's the cruelest trick of all. The fraud doesn't just steal your money, it steals the exact thing you were buying olive oil for. So what can you actually do? Standing in the store, holding a bottle, with a tummy you can't trust. More than you'd think. You can't taste your way to the truth, but you can read your way there. First, look for a harvest date, not just a best buy. Real producers are proud of when they pressed it, and you want oil from the last year or so. Second, buy it in dark glass or a tin. Light Rex olive oil, so anyone selling the good stuff protects it. Third, hunt for trustworthy seals, PDOCOOC, organic, and pick a single specific origin, one estate or region, over a vague blend of EU oils. Fourth, be suspicious of a price that seems too good. Real extra virgin has a real cost floor. Nobody sells gold for the price of water. And ignore the old, stick it in the fridge trick. Whether it turns cloudy tells you absolutely nothing. So tonight, when you walk into your kitchen and reach for that bottle in your cupboard, you'll see it differently. You'll know extra virgin is one of the most faked phrases in your whole pantry, that a mafia, a drought, and a chemistry lab all collided inside one little bottle. You couldn't taste the difference before, but now you know exactly what to look for.